Welcome to Insights from Getting Undressed with speaker, author, and coach, David Cooks.
I'm David Cooks, and welcome to Insights from Getting Undressed, where we get to speak with readers from across the country and get their insights from reading my book, Getting Undressed, From Paralysis to Purpose. Today, we're honored to have as our guest, Patrick Doherty from Muskego, Wisconsin. Welcome, Patrick.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Hey, before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
So I am a middle school teacher and athletic director at Hales Corners Lutheran in Hales Corners, Wisconsin, kind of South Milwaukee area. And I've been a teacher and athletic director there for over 10 years. I have coached 7th and 8th grade boys basketball for a long time. I just finished my 17th season as a 7th and 8th grade boys basketball coach. And I also have had the opportunity to be one of the assistant coaches at Concordia University in Mequon. I just finished my 4th year assisting the men's basketball program there. So teacher, coach, athletic director, been married for 5 years, married to my best friend. Life is good.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thanks for sharing that. Hey, let's get started, okay?
Let's do it.
We'll ask you the same 3 questions that everyone has been asked. Very first question. What story in the book did you relate to the most and why?
So it happened for me pretty early on in the book where you talked about, I believe you were going to your first a group meeting when you were in the hospital, and you were going to a group meeting and it was on the other end of the hospital. Mm-hmm. And as you were going, you're going down the hallway and you're looking room by room by room, and you're seeing so many people that have been impacted in so many serious ways. And not to say that your situation was not serious, obviously it was, but I believe you said something along the lines of that you knew others were suffering from fates far worse than yours, and how instantly in that moment you were able to frame your current circumstance so positively, and it wasn't going to be something that was going to define you. And it was such a glass half full moment, not half empty. And for me, where that hit with me is, although our past is very different, my life experiences are very different. We all have our own unique history. Growing up, there was a few years in my life that was pretty hard, and my family was going through a lot of different things. And during that time, I really grew in my relationship with my sisters. My older sisters wound up being my main caregivers. They took care of me. And throughout that time, I remember, just as you pointed out, doctors questioning your positivity as if you were in denial. Like, you're not depressed, you're not mad, you're not sad. And I remember at a very young age, through everything that my family was going through, some people asking those same types of questions of us. And I just followed the leadership of my sisters in that moment and their strength and their positivity. And you've got one of two choices, right? Like, you can stay positive and continue to give your very best, or you can be negative and make excuses. And my sisters, they got straight A's in high school. They worked. They did everything that they could and did everything they could to provide such a loving home for us. So as I read that, and in the midst of a storm of your life where you're looking and you're thinking, you know what, like, this isn't great. If God gave me an opportunity to write my story, I don't think I would write it this way, but I'm going to attack this with some positivity and energy and enthusiasm. And I remember feeling a lot of the same ways in the midst of one of the storms of my life.
Okay. Second question. What are some of your key takeaways from the book?
So I guess stemming off of that, one of two that really stick out to me, again, remaining positive and continuing to give your best. As a basketball coach, we would say, listen, at the end of the day, I mean, you've got two things you can control: your effort and your attitude. Was it your best effort? Was it your best attitude? Did you give your best? Did you pour your best on the basketball court? And regardless of what happens, regardless of what that scoreboard says, was that your best? And if it was, then you can lay your head on that pillow at night and be satisfied with the day. And now how can we learn and grow the next day? And the other theme that I took from it, something else that really stood out to me, was that nothing is insignificant. Whether it be, as you talked about your journey as a coach and your first moments at Duke University, I'll fill water bottles, I'll go shag basketballs, I'll do what needs to be done, and it's noticed. Coach K noticed. And in life, there's no moment that's insignificant with people. When you've got this moment out of nowhere, I mean, this is really one of my favorite parts of the book. Such an incredible moment. You've got this moment out of nowhere where this young woman walks in to your studio, I believe it was, and you start talking. You don't know her, but she listens to you on the radio, and she tells you that she's pregnant and she's thinking of having an abortion. And you listen, and you're empathetic, and you're sincere, and you're not judgmental. And you tell her, again, back to being positive, positively framing things, where we've talked about this a little bit, rather than why me, why not me? You throw that little word in there, why not me? That's such a major mind shift. And as you communicate with her with love and sincerity and care, and you're not judgmental, and she thanks you and leaves, and you're not sure what will or won't happen, or if you'll ever see her again. And then a few years later, here you run into her at church, and she's got the love of her life, the joy of her life, a little baby boy named David. I mean, how amazing is that, where she thanks you for your time? There's no moment, there's nothing that's too minor, no moment, no interaction with someone that's insignificant. That little moment where you gave her some time and you listened and you were honest and sincere changed the course of her life, and the life of her child. So those are two really incredible themes that stick out for me.
Okay. So your two takeaways, just so I can summarize them, were
Sure.
One, stay positive and give your best effort. And then secondly, there's nothing insignificant. Every little thing matters.
Yeah, I mean, as a basketball coach, like, do the little things, do the little things, do the little things. It all matters. And yeah, in life, everything that you do it to His glory. And every moment that you have is an opportunity to make an influence in the lives of others. So every connection you make, every relationship you have, every interaction you have with someone can have some real positive ripple effects and change the course of someone's life forever.
Okay. Last question. What is your favorite quote or quotes from the book?
There's a lot.
Well, you can't have them all.
Yeah. As when I read, I'm an underliner and a highlighter. I've got so much that's underlined and highlighted in your book, David. But one that I love, and for me, I think it kind of ties together with some of the two takeaways, where you mentioned, be intentional about making other people's lives better. Do it on purpose, for purpose. Be intentional about that. And I think a sense of intentionality comes from knowing your purpose and doing it on purpose. And I think a sense of intentionality comes from also understanding the impact that you can make on someone's life when you put your arm around them, when you're there for them, when you listen to them, when you're honest with them. Be intentional about how you love and care for others. And I think you need to have a sense of positivity in doing what you're doing throughout all that in order to be able to do that and make that kind of difference in someone's life. So of many of your quotes that I really like, that one sticks out for me.
Okay, fantastic. Before we close today, Patrick, I want to give you an opportunity to share with the audience around the world anything that you would like to about the book.
Okay, I'm happy to. The first time I read it, and I've said this to many people, the first time I read it, it was easily one of the best, most impactful books that I ever read, to learn from you and to hear of your experiences and your challenges and how you overcame all of the obstacles in your life was something that was so thought-provoking, and it was fascinating, and it encouraged me. And then I read it again, and it really became less about your story, and it became more about mine. I read it a second time, and as I'm reading it, I'm thinking so much about how the things that are stated in the book, so many times I reflected on how it applies to me, how it's applied to my past, how it applies to my present, and what it means for my future moving forward. So I more than encourage the audience that's listening. I urge you to spend the time to read this book. When you spend the time to read this book, you will be encouraged and inspired to grow and continue to pursue being the best version of yourself, regardless of whatever circumstance might be in your way, and to know the power of being able to make a true impact in our world in the relationships that you build with people.
Wow. Well, thank you, Patrick. Thank you for joining us today. Remember, whatever life throws your way, your ability to endure it is always greater than your willingness to endure it.
You can order your copy of Getting Undressed from Paralysis to Purpose at davidcookspeaks.com or from amazon.com. Special thanks to Patrick Doherty for sharing his insights from Getting Undressed.